you ever talk about some really weird kid named Andrew?
I can ask my brother.
I do not remember.
Amy said that that's not even his real name.
So, we're going to look at the review sheet so that y'all are ready for your test tomorrow. Now, I did post a video last night to YouTube. It is in your playlist, or the classes playlist there. There is a link also in Google Classroom straight to it. That is the entire review sheet. So the whole review sheet is on that video. I only did 2 problems from 9 through 14 because, again, they're not on the test. Well, there's 2 questions that are bonus on the test, and that's mainly because I decided to remove those questions or that type and already had the test printed. So I'm not going to waste paper by throwing those away and reprinting it. They just are switched over to bonus points. Now, what we're going to look at first is questions 1 through 4. Any questions on problems 1 through 4? For any of these that we want to look at or see how they are done.
Is this just like if it's underlined, right?
So if it's equal to, we would have our brackets. If it's not equal to, we'd have the parentheses. So for number 1, we have 2 numbers, 2 endpoints. So that means it's going to be going from negative 256 to 100. Now, because the 100 has the less than or equal to, it will be a bracket. Because the other one doesn't have the equal to, it will be a parenthesis.
Y'all looked at me like
Questions on number 1? Questions on 2, 3, or 4? Or any of those that y'all want to see worked? 2. Now 2 only has 1 endpoint because we only have 1 number. X is not included in interval notation. We don't include variables. We just have the numbers. So 200 is going to be one of the endpoints. Now the other endpoint, because it's not listed, is either going to be infinity or negative infinity, depending on which way it's going. Now if we look at this here, we're saying X is what? X is less than. So we're talking about all the numbers smaller than 200. Negative infinity. Now, because it's not equal to with the 200, it would be a parenthesis. And what would be negative infinity? Parenthesis, because we cannot reach infinity or negative infinity. It's not included, it would be a parenthesis. Infinity and negative infinity will always be parentheses. Any other questions on 1 through 4? Questions on 5 through 8? We good with the first page? 9 through 14 are not included on the test. I do have 2 of them in the video that are actually closer to the ones that will appear on the test. So if you want to watch that later, you can. I want to make sure we have time for the rest of it. Questions on 15 and 16? Yes.
Is that all it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like matrix and then like edit, right?
Because to plug it in, we'll write the augmented matrix, which would be -1, -5, -5, 2, 4, -5, 4, 19, 1, 5, -1. No, you will. I am just writing it out so that we see what we plug in. Now at this point here, we would grab the calculator. And then we're going to do second matrix, edit, 3 by, so arrows, move it over, 3 by 4. Now, what we have is -1, -5, -5, I believe so.
Is it called toggle? Back me up here, Mr.
I think it depends on the usage. Because I don't know for sure. I think in some uses it might be called toggle, and others might not.
I thought it was
So we good with plugging it in.
yeah.
Now from here we go second, quit, second matrix. Now we need to go over to math and find,
R
and when we find it we hit enter.
and then we hit enter again, right? And then A, second matrix
Matrix A, because now we have this here. So we need RREF, and then we need to recall the matrix to apply the reduced row epsilon form RREF to it. And we get this here. And the last column is the answer. Because we had x first, y second, z third, it's going to go x, y, z. So -2, -3, 3. So our answer is -2, -3, 3. And that's all we need. Now, if rewriting or writing it as an augmented matrix helps you get the correct answer, go on and write it out. If you feel comfortable typing it straight into the calculator from the equations, you can do that too. Questions on 15 and 16. We feel good with these here. Yes? Now, one of the things I will say with solving these three variable systems of equation on the test, there will not be one that's no solution, and there will not be one that's infinitely many. Because I do not include those on the test for these three variable systems of equation, because most likely your first thought is not it's no solution, it's most likely going to be I did something wrong. So I don't include that on the test with 15 and 16.
What is infinite?
So I think this one here is 1, 1, 0, 2, 0, 0, 1, 0. Because it's the last row is all zeros. Because if the last row is all zeros, then it is infinitely many. If the last row is 3 zeros and a 1, then it is no solution. Questions on 19 through 24. Questions on any of these in particular? Careful. Questions on any one of these 6 here? So we can look at 19 first. Now both equations are written in the correct form. We have x, we have y equals number. So we can just go on and write them in. So we'd have 7 for x and then -41 for y equals 29. The next one would be 46, -2 and 19. And this here is a 2 by 3.
Do you get in trouble or are they just like hang out?
It's mostly that, yeah,
I'm gonna find
No,
headphones
don't.
are cool.
about headphones. Let's look at 20. Now, if we look at 20, the first of these three equations I want to look at is the middle one, because if we notice the middle is not in correct form, it's yxz. So we can rewrite it. That's one way we can do it, or we can just switch it, because the x value is what?
Oh, 17.
-7 for the middle one. I'm going to do the middle one first. The y value is 1, z is 4, it's equal to 15. I don't necessarily have to rewrite it, especially if we can see how to flip it around. If it does help to rewrite it as -7x plus y plus 4z equals 15, that works too. Now our top equation, we'd have 6 for x, 0 for y, 4 for z, and 2. And the last one's going to be 6, -1, 3, 20. The only time we put a 0 in is if the variable is missing completely and is included in the others.
What if the variable is included in only one?
If it's in one of them, it needs to be in. Yep. because 19, z is not included in either, so we don't include it at all. It's got to be in at least one. Any other questions on 19 through 24? We good with 19 through 24? Yes? Questions on 25 through 29? This page here, 25 through 29.
All questions. So I was we do 25.
Now with all of these here, we're going to go back to the transformation list, the ones in red, and we'll stick to those. Now the f part of it is just a way to name the function. It could be f, g, h, k, z. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just referring back to which function we're talking about. And we apply the transformations in the order that they appear. So the first one for this one here is translated 3 units up. Exactly, f of x plus. Okay, now we use the f because we're talking about the function f of x. If it was g of x, we would use g. If we were using h, k, we would have that there. Now the first thing we can do is plug in the value of k. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we'll plug it in. And the value of k is positive 3 because we're going up 3. Now, we didn't do anything to f of x. It's still f of x. X is still inside the parentheses. So we're just going to replace f of x with its function, 2x squared minus 1 plus 3. I put the parentheses just in case we do have something put in front of it, like with reflection across the x-axis or vertical stretch and shrink. But here we don't have that, so we can drop the parentheses, telling us that we have 6x squared minus 1 plus 3. Well, negative 1 plus 3 is plus 2. Now we can give it a name. We'll call it g of x. I just needed a way to name it to specify or know that I'm talking about this function next, not the one we started with. Now the next part is a vertical stretch of 2. So our normal setup is a f of x, or here we're going to say a times g of x because we're applying it to the function g of x, not our original f of x. Now the value of a in this case is 2 g of x. Since we still just have g of x, just like with f of x, we're going to replace it with its function. So this time we're going to have 6x squared plus 2. Now the last thing we need to do is distribute the 2. 2 times 6x squared is 12x squared, and 2 times 2 is 4. Now I'm going to give it a name h of x, but the main thing I'm focused on, especially on the test, is the function itself, not what it's called.
Oh, that's the correct answer.
That's it. Questions on this here?
Can you do 26?
26. Translation, right 4 and up 3. So the first thing we are going to do is the right 4. So it's our f of x minus h. Now the value of h is our movement, so it's right 4. And would the 4 be positive or negative? Positive because it's moving right, but in the function it will be x minus 4. That's just the form it's in. Now, at this point, we don't have f of x anymore. We have f of x minus 4. So we replaced x with x minus 4, which means every x in the function has to be replaced with x minus 4. Everything else stays the same. We're just switching out that x. So we'll still have the 2, but instead of x, we have the quantity x minus 4 minus 1. Everything else stayed the same. We're just pulling that x out and replacing it with x minus 4. Now at this point here, we're going to distribute the 2. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 4 is. So we have exactly 2x minus 9. Now, I'm just going to call this g of x. Up. Up 3. G of x plus k. If we did one transformation, it would be. Here we have and up 3, was it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
2x
So
minus 6.
we'll plug in 3 plus 3 for k because we're going up 3. If it had been down 3, we would have said minus 3. Now g of x is just g of x. We can replace it with its function. The absolute value of 2x minus 9 plus 3. Now at this point I can drop the absolute value, not the absolute value, the parentheses, giving us this here. Now this is actually the final answer because I cannot move that 3 into the absolute values. It just stays outside.
Wait, why can't we do that?
Because, right, it's the absolute value of this here.
I feel like I'm gonna
Are you
forget that.
gonna cut it wrong if we don't put an h of x or
No,
g of x?
because again, h of x, g of x is just a way to name it. I'm looking at the function. So with absolute values, we can't move anything in and we don't pull anything out of them.
Like, if you know its absolute value, it starts. So wait, whenever it starts with an absolute value, it's gonna end with it too?
Most likely, yes.
When does it not?
Probably the absolute value of x squared. I don't think would be one case because then the quantities or the properties of the square and absolute value simplify each other out. So you need one or the other. But I don't know, I'd have to look because I don't think there is a case where we would drop it, but I'm not sure.
Can we do 27?
You what? This one? So we'll do this one, then we need to move on. If we do have time at the end, we'll come back, but I do want to make sure to hit the others. Now, translated up 3, so we do f of x plus k, which would be our f of x plus 3. 6x minus 1, we can replace it with f of x plus 3. So we have 6x minus 1 plus 3, which tells us that we have 6x plus. Really doesn't matter what we call it. I'm going to call it g of x so that we do have a way to know this is the function we're talking about for our next translation, which is across the y-axis. Now, a reflection across the y-axis, as we listed on the board, is f of negative x. Here we're going to say g of x because we're talking about that function. We don't have to plug anything else in, but we need to replace every x in g of x with negative x. So we'd have 6 times negative x plus 2. Just like with the x minus 4 previously, we replaced x with x minus 4. Here we're replacing x with negative x. Multiply them together. 6 times negative x is 6x plus 2. Now we could call it h of x. Doesn't really matter, but that is our function. So, questions on these here? We feel good with these here. So if we have time for 28, 29, or 30, or 31, we will come back to those in a little bit. Because all the ones on the test itself, there's 4 of them. 2 do one translation, 2 do two of them. The bonus does multiple, more than that. Yeah.
Like times 1.7, that's 1.7, like 1 over 4 times.
32 is 30. Because I added 30, the 30 and 31 I added in at the top of the page, which shifted everything else. I just didn't take the time to correct the numbers.
That's fun. Yours has 1/4, and then the numbers, ours has 6 at the bottom.
Because if we do the 1/4, 1/4 times 16 is 4.
I drew that.
1/4 times 24 would be,
Why did I draw 6?
because the answer key had 8 instead of 6. Because on the answer key for the back of it,
Oh, that's, you were telling me about this. That's why I wrote 6.
15/2 and 9/4. So we'd multiply each one of them by 1/4 and then simplify. Now we could do this in the calculator if you wanted.
24, 21. Wait, the bottom.
4.
4. 24.
Because we're multiplying 9 by 1/4, it doesn't reduce. 30 and 4 have a common factor of 2. Now the other way we could put this is 7.5 and 2.25. Actually convert them to decimals. But with anything, because I believe I said this in geometry last year, if you convert one of the answers to decimals, convert the rest. Or if you leave one as a fraction, make sure the rest are in fractional form. 4 and 6 do not need to be in fractional form because they are integers. They don't have a decimal. Questions on this here? Questions on the 31 on the board or 33, I believe, on your paper? Questions on either one of these here?
We do 34 and 35.
These two?
Yeah.
So this one here, the first thing we would do is multiply it by 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 times 4 is 8. Now the second one, we can multiply it through by just 4. We can leave the negative there. So 4 times 8 is 4 times 6. And 4 times 7 is 28. Now the last one does not have a scalar to multiply it by, so it's still just 333. Now at this point here, we can subtract the first two. It's negative 26. 2 minus 24 is negative 22, and 8 minus 20 is negative 20. And we have the last one, 333. And if we add these two together, negative 26 plus 3 is negative 23. Negative 22 plus 3 is negative 19. And lastly, negative 20 plus 3 is negative 17. And that's it. Now, if you wanted to, you could have gone and named the first one in the calculator, plugged it in as A, then B, then C, and typed it in that way. Because we could have called it 2A minus 4B plus C, and typed it in and then inputted that into the calculator, and it would have done it for you. I did show you how to do it on the other video, the full video, both ways.
Yeah, there was a follow-up. See, 1.7.
Question 33 is what?
Not possible.
Oh, yeah. It's 3 by 3.
Because the first one's a 3 by 3, the other is a 3 by. I might throw one of those on the test. Because unlike the no solution for the 3-variable system of equation, this is actually just looking at it, we can see they're not the same, so it's no solution. This one we don't actually have to do any calculations or any steps for. We good with these here? 36 and 37 are the exact same thing, but it's just doing the same steps. Now, you can do this in the calculator. I did show how to do that on the calculator. So with these here, if you want to watch the video, I do go over how to do these in the calculator, and then you can just type it in as 5A minus 6B, hit enter, and it actually gives you the answer. Yeah, well, that, if we do have time at the end, I can go back over it. The fractions, to get a fraction in the graphing calculator is alpha, y equals enter. Green button, y equals enter. But the 30xs has a single button. Questions on 38 or 39? Which one do we want to do? 38? This one here. So now on the test, there's two things I'm going to ask you to find. The first is slope. Find the slope of the line. Now there are 2 points given here. The other just not listed directly, but it is the origin 0, 0. It hits the origin at 0, 0. Now the first thing we need to find the slope are our two y values. What's one of them? 33. The other is 33 minus 0. The x value is 100 minus 0. Yes? Now at this point here, we can plug this into the calculator to simplify. Well, 33 minus 0 is 100 minus 0 is 100. 33 and 100 do not have a common factor, so the slope is 33 over 100. That is half the answer. The other part is we need to find the equation of the line. Now we can plug in the slope, 33 over 100. Now we need to pick a point.
Wait, we do the point 0, 0?
The 0, 0?
Yeah, can we do that?
Yeah. Well, y minus 0 is y. 33 over 100 times x is, well, 33 over 100. And 33 over 100 times 0 is?
0.
0, yes. So our equation is,
Y equals 33.
if we'd have used the other equation, or the other point, we'd still get to the same spot. Get a bigger eraser. Is if we did the other point, we would have a marker 33, 100. We'd have y minus 33. Now we'd still have 33 over 100x. But if we multiply the 33 over 100 by 100, we actually get negative 33. And when we add 33 to both sides, here we just get y is equal to 33 over 100 x. So our negative 33 plus 33 is
0.
we get the same equation. So either point we use, we still get to the same spot. Does that make sense? So with x1, y1, we just need to pick one and plug it into the equation. Zeros are always nice because anything times 0 is 0.
Wait, 40 be like 65.
We can look at 40 here. Now, the other point that was given but not directly stated was the y-intercept of 0.65. Now again, with any of these here, the first thing we need to do is find the slope. We can, but there are ways to just jump straight to it.
So let's say that
Slope would be hard.
So,
0.
so one of the y values is 65, the other is?
We always well, because I was thinking, if it's 65 the whole time, it's going to be 65 the whole time. So it's still be 65 after 10 minutes.
So the slope is?
0.
Because it's not going up or down, it's just going left to right, because it's rise over run. Since it's not going up and down, the slope is 0. Guys, let's focus in. So the slope is 0, because we could have plugged this in, and the calculator will tell us it is 0. Now, to find the equation of the line, we can still plug it into this here. Because we'll plug 0 in for m, our slope. Now we got to pick one of those 2 points.
65.
And we could do 0 or 5. Because the left-hand side is going to be y minus 65. but 0 times anything is, so the entire right side just becomes 0. So if I had to pick 0 or 5, it is still 0. Last thing we have to do is add 65, so y is 65. Questions on this here?
But can we go back and learn that one later?
Yes. Yes.
Can I go to the office? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Answer your right after.
26. 24 and 3 bonuses. Because that 26 is with the 2 bonus questions.
Taylor the one that wanted to learn this one? Pathetic was that?
So we could do 37. Now, we'll input the first one in as A and the second one in as B. So when we get the graphic calculator, we can go second matrix over to edit like we've done before. But this time it is, yes. We'll set A, and it is a 2 by 2. So we have 9, -8, 15, 21. Second quit, second matrix. This time we want to edit matrix B. 2 by 2. 7, 18, -21, 2. Second quit. So we just typed the first matrix into A, second matrix into B. Now, second quit. So we're wanting -2/3 times the first one. So to type the fraction in, we're going to go alpha y equals enter. -2 over 3. So we have it there. We want the cursor next to it, not underneath the fraction. And we're going to recall matrix A, so second matrix A. And we're going to add to it the fraction alpha y equals enter 3/5, and then we'll go second matrix B.
Oh, and then you just click. Oh, it's so easy.
And that's it.
You can write as fractions.
Because if we did 36, second matrix A is a 2 by 4. We'd have 8, 6, 21, 7, -31, 15, 9, 8. Second cleared. Second matrix B is also a 2 by 4. 18, 4, 6, -2, 21, 15, -18, 7. Or take it off. 18, 4, 6, -2, 21, 15, -18, 7. Okay. Second quit. Now for 36, it was 5 times the first matrix we plugged in, -6 times our second matrix, matrix B. And we get this here. Questions on these here? Now, some of these, it's going to take you almost as much time, if not longer, to type them into the calculator for some of the addition and subtraction. So sometimes it's not faster to do it that way, sometimes it is. But that is it. If there was any that you didn't get to or we didn't get to, the other video does have them, so you can watch them there. Also, all of your homework is due by the end of the day tomorrow. End of the day tomorrow. That is